So I'm really, really pleased to be speaking with you today. Which one? Oh, the down? Okay. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be speaking with you today. So has anyone in this room ever felt like their business owns them? Yep. A few hands there. So for those of you that have raised your hands and feel like your business has owned you, I have a lot of good points. And for those that don't feel like it, trust me, you will get there as it grows. So regardless, we have some good advice for you. So as Erica told you, my name is Merritt Lee. I'm the CEO and founder of Digital Design Solutions. What she didn't tell you is that I'm as guilty of having my business own me. And it has been doing this for years, which makes me the perfect person to speak to you about this topic. And in full transparency, I'm still a work in progress. So, do you want to deal with the pain of change or live with the pain of staying in the same situation? That statement really spoke to me a lot. And that's what really made me want to make the change. Because every change is hard and it takes a lot of time and you don't have the time to do it. But if you don't do it, then you're just stuck in the same pain. Let me share my journey about how I decided that I was truly ready to embrace this change. I was working 16 hours a day, trying to take care of my husband, trying to take care of my house, trying to take care of the business and my employees. Taking time to reflect on my personal health and the health of my business allowed me to realize that I needed to make some changes sooner than later, or I was going to burn out. Through this paradigm shift, I consciously and daily started working on new objectives new objectives to owning my business instead of allowing my business to own me. And that brought me to these objectives. Hire slow, fire fast. My friend Matthew taught me that. Bigger is not always better. And schedule time for yourself on the calendar. But first, let me just share a little bit about myself. I grew up in a household, and I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to get a job. I wasn't allowed to go to concerts or do any of the normal things that a teenager would do. Education and independence for me, in fact, for women in general in my family, was not allowed. But when I was 17, I won a scholarship to a modeling school in New York. And I moved there, and then I met my husband, and we started doing stand-up comedy together for Fortune 500 companies all around the city. After that, we moved to San Francisco, and in 1995, I got a job modeling for Levi's. Additionally, I started working for City Search, which was the precursor to Yelp. And I was also doing a live radio show called The Wine Authority. So I was really living the life and enjoying these great jobs. My husband looked at me one day over dinner and he said, you know, these jobs aren't going to last. And his exact words were, beauty fades, dumb is forever. You really need to go get an education. And so I thought about it, and he really was encouraging me because I was working 6 hours a week at Levi's and making six figures. So I thought that would go on forever, but it wasn't going to, and he was right. So I realized, as fun as these jobs were, they had limited timelines. And I know I needed to do something to take myself through the long haul of life. In 1994, it was an amazing time in San Francisco. I took advantage of the fact that I was living in a city that was the forerunner of the tech industry. It was an amazing time to be surrounded by all these different technologies, different startups. Everywhere you talk to, everyone you talk to, they were doing a startup. I went to school at San Francisco State, and a lot of big companies like Macromedia, Microsoft would come to the school and talk because they wanted to meet the talent. I learned Photoshop, and Maggie and Ashley who know Photoshop, I actually learned Photoshop from one of the very first users of Photoshop. And he taught me how to make layers in Photoshop based on the movie files that he had made for Spawn and Terminator. That's how far back it all went. Learning from the founders of these companies and trying to elevate my skill set gave me the confidence to start my company, Digital Design Solutions, before I even graduated. After graduating from San Francisco State, my husband sat me down again over coffee, and he said, all right, now you have to quit your job at Levi's. And I thought, are you crazy? Quit Levi's? I mean, you're not going to get this back. And he said, no, until you give up the easy money, you will never focus on your business and make it successful if you've got the easy money in your corner. So after many sleepless nights, I finally decided to walk away from my cushy job at Levi's and enter the life of an entrepreneur. Over the past 2.5 decades, my company, that's when we were in New York, modeling and our comedy show. Over the past 2.5 decades, my company has evolved into a full-service web design and digital marketing company. We're an award-winning company, and we help optimize revenue and branding for our clients. I work with an amazing, talented staff, many who are here today, and some who have been with me for over 12 years. I still work for some of the original clients that were restaurants back in San Francisco that have been with us for 28 years. We have over 300 clients, some of whom, and most of whom, we consider friends. We work for the U.S. Polo Association. We work for Bobo Steakhouse, which is one of the top steakhouses in the country. We even work for the Space Foundation, and I actually created a poster that was signed by all the scientists and then launched into space. So in 2020, when COVID hit, we were in an industry that everybody needed our help. They needed our help to get online, to make online sales, and to survive and thrive through COVID. So I was in that position to be able to help people through sales and digital marketing. So I expanded my social media department, my digital marketing company, and brought on 5 new people really fast just to staff up. And we were very, very busy, but I could see that my day-to-day operations stopped running smoothly, which caused a definite shift in our culture of the company. Why? Because in the rush to staff up quickly, I made the mistake of not vetting people properly. And so that brings me to my first objective, which is hire slow, fire fast. It sounds simple, right? But of course, you want to always hire the right people. But if you're in a hurry, you're desperate, you need staff, you say, I'll just take him, he's acceptable. And you say, he might not be a good fit for my company, but you know what, I can train him, I can make it work. That's not a good answer. It's not a good result. And the mentality is, even if that person isn't right, I'll just deal with it. But as I said, that's not a good answer. And I credit Matthew, actually. We had a conversation one day, and he said to me, there's an old advice, hire slow, fire fast. And I had hired someone, and he had fantastic ideas. He had grandiose ideas. He had great plans. He had no follow-through. And he had no intention of making those things come to fruition. And so it was costing me money. It was costing me peace. I had people on the payroll that I wasn't happy with, and it was starting to cost me client relations. And I was in a place that I didn't want to be. But I dragged my feet. I realized that I didn't want to just go in, and who wants to face someone and say, you're fired? And so I kept dragging my feet until one day I realized this person's presence in my company was causing me more harm than good. He was causing me productive work days, he was disrupting the staff, and he was disrupting my overall peace. If you hire the wrong person, you need to quickly get rid of that person. That is why it's important to take the time to hire the right person, and first and foremost, you need to vet them. Make sure that you vet the information they give you, because you'd be surprised how many people make things up and are not as good as they sound on paper. Look beyond their skills, look beyond their experience, and focus on their values, their personality, their work ethic. I recommend that you hire someone who shares your company's values and that they will fit in with your team. Because it's not just about hiring the right person. You have to remember that your employees are your backbone. They're the backbone of your company. They are the ones that represent you. And if they don't represent you, you've got the wrong person. Take the time to hire the right person to keep your culture that supports and encourages your whole staff. But when you realize that you've made a mistake, don't prolong the inevitable. Hire slow, fire fast, and move on. This taught me a very big lesson. And once I got that solved, peace came back. Bigger is not always better. That's the next step. That's another lesson that I had to learn the hard way. As I mentioned, we expanded a lot during COVID. And it was at this time that I learned that bigger is not always better. I've seen firsthand how many companies can get caught up in the pursuit of growth and expansion without considering the potential downsides of doing this. You see, bigger is not always better. When growth and expansion can be important for some businesses, it's not the best for every business. You have to look at every situation. In fact, there's many potential downsides to growing too quickly and too aggressively. In my situation, I staffed up a little too fast. My focus switched from running the business to making sure that everyone was busy. We took jobs, they didn't matter how low, how small they were. They didn't matter if they were profitable to us or not. All I cared about was I had to keep everybody busy. And what that in turn did, we chose quality, we were choosing quantity over quality. And what it did to our company, we had so many phone calls and so many little jobs and so many little fires that we were just pulled and torn into all different directions, and we couldn't focus on the good jobs, on the quality jobs, on the big picture jobs. And it didn't matter that it was tempting to take all these small projects, but what I realized is that there was so much noise that I lost the day-to-day ability to manage my team and to make productive projects for the long haul of the company. I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and he said, you know what, I was where you were a few years ago. He said, I cut back my staff. I started to focus only on my core competencies. And you know what, I'm more profitable now, and I'm happier now. That stuck with me. That statement just stuck with me. I'm like, what am I doing? You know, I have all this noise going on. I just can't focus. And I'm like, he's right, I need to make that change. It comes down to, oh, I missed one. It comes down to, well, it's not there. But it comes down to the fact that you want to work smarter, not harder. So what we did was we instituted to focus on bigger projects, truly focus on projects with lasting impact, and they made us all feel fulfilled in what we were working on. When I did this, I realized that bigger is not always better, not for my employees, not for myself. It was one step overcoming this reality that my business was owning me because I was too busy putting out fires. So with these two objectives fully vetted and working well, it was now time for scheduling some meetings.